Hi, I'm Kenneth WAJDA, and I'm a professional photographer in Colorado, and today's photography talk I'm going to talk about buying used gear, because a lot of people are interested in buying cameras, especially film cameras, and the same things apply to digital, but I mostly am interested in sourcing old film cameras because I teach photography. I find cameras that I can use with students. Most of the time what I'm looking for is I'm looking for cameras that are metal from the 70s and 80s, more so than the plastic bodies they started to come out with in the 90s and early 2000s. And certainly Canon and Nikon have the better quality cameras compared to the Minoltas and the Konicas, although you can find good cameras in those brands. And Pentax, there were plenty of good cameras. There were, certainly lots of choices. And sometimes it's fun to come across an old Exacta or an old Praktica, and some of those Eastern European brands that, they're kind of like a little clunky, but they have their own look, they have their own feel. An old Zenit Russian camera, a lot of those kind of cameras are a treat to use. And a lot of the Russian cameras you can get for very inexpensive prices. I usually source them on eBay because I don't find them locally, but under $50 for a nice little Zorky 4 rangefinder, which I have one in perfect shape, and it's a treat to use. It's really a nice viewfinder. It's got a good rangefinder focus. I think overall, just remember you have to be able to really give a camera a once-over if you're buying it and it's in your hand. So check it for shutter speeds and see, do the different shutter speeds seem like they're kind of close? You might not be able to exactly tell a quarter of a second from a half a second, but they should sound different from each other. And they both should sound different from a 500th of a second. So, run through the shutter speeds. I had somebody at a flea market one time say, oh, you can't shoot it without filming it, it'll hurt it. And it won't. And you have to do that. You have to make sure the shutter is working. A lot of those cameras have a manual mechanical aperture ring, so check that too. You should be able to open and close it, and it shouldn't stick when you're trying to reopen it after you close it down because it's gummy. There are, it's supposed to, the way it works is you're focusing through it wide open. At the moment of exposure, it closes down to the f-stop you set it at, and then it opens back up. If you close down the aperture and you open it back up and it's slowly opening up, that means it's gummy, it's a little bit sticky. And you don't really want to buy lenses that are starting to have problems, because I know for me, I don't want to fix them. I don't want to pay for repairs. So I end up trying to buy cameras that are pretty much ready to go. Some of them will have light seals missing in the door. And you could just tape those, or I don't know if I've even dealt with them that much. I think I use them as is, and I haven't had too much problem, but maybe that's just because I keep the camera in a bag and I pull it out for when I'm shooting, or I'm shooting that camera maybe in a lot of low light. But in any case, you can find great deals on cameras, but check them out thoroughly. Take the lenses off and look through them, and you should see no spots, no fungus, no growths. Although I have one 135 millimeter or 100 millimeter lens by Olympus. It's one of their prime lenses, and it's completely covered on the front element with fungus. It looks like a little seabed down there. And it works perfectly. A lot of times elements that are in the front, defects to those don't affect the image like images and scratches like on the back element. And if you're shooting wide open, you tend to not see as much of the defect as if you stop down, because it's almost like you're letting the depth of field bring the problem closer to the film and you actually see a piece of it. So you can find some great deals, and you can even try some lenses that look a little bit sketchy, but certainly watch for things that are on the back element. That's a bigger problem than problems on the front element. And if you can, get a return policy if it's through a little store, an antique store or something. But I find 220 and 120 Rolleiflexes or Yashicas in antique stores. I find them in I find 35mm cameras like a Pentax K1000 for $15 at Goodwill's. I found an FM2 out of Goodwill. You can find film cameras at thrift stores and antique stores, Craigslist, flea markets. If you're out and about at a flea market, or I'm sorry, at a yard sale, and you're thinking, hey, I wonder if I don't see any film cameras, ask the owner. Sometimes they don't think to put them out because they would think nobody would want one. And I've had many film cameras come my way because I asked and they said, oh yeah, I never thought to put it out, here it is. And then we work out a deal. And a lot of people assume that there's no film available anymore for film cameras, so you can get those at a deal. And the beauty of shooting film is we can afford to shoot Hasselblads and Bronicas and the cameras that when I was a kid were so out of reach financially, but now they're not that expensive. And anything that you pay for today, it's probably going to still be worth tomorrow. Whereas if you buy a brand new Nikon D750, that's going to lose its value in just a few weeks once you own it, because it's now a used camera and it's a computer. And it's not mechanical, and it doesn't have 30 or 40 years worth of history. So those film cameras that you find, if you spend $20 on them, you can always get your $20 back. If you spend $400 on a Leica M3, that's a good price for a Leica M3. You can get that $400 back in 2 years from now, because that's not going to lose its value. It's already 60 or 70 years old. But that Nikon D750 that you just dropped $2,500 on, or whatever they cost, that's going to be worth 2/3 of that price in just about a year. And it's going to be worth 1/3 of that in a few years. So really, you have a better return, and it's a safer bet to buy film cameras, because either they're very inexpensive or the return on them is about the same as what you paid. So you're really just tying up money. Anything like a Hasselblad or a Leica, as long as you don't overpay for what most of them are selling for. And you can look on eBay under advanced search, completed sales, and sold items, and see what some of the cameras that you're looking at are selling for. If somebody has a Hasselblad 500 CM in their store and it's marked at $2,500, and you look online and comparable systems like it are selling for $800, you're not going to get it back. But if they have it for $500 and you start searching and it's like everybody's got it for $800, you'll get your $500 back. You may even get $300 more. So film has a great advantage right now that we can really create photographs, and we get to use some of this beautiful equipment. And I'm really looking forward to continuing to explore film, and I would love to share some more pictures with you, so we'll do that as we go. And thanks again for watching, and I'd be curious to see what you've picked up recently, where you found it. Put it in the comments below. And if you're enjoying the series, hit the subscribe button. All right, thanks. I'll see you next time.